The United States has finished its withdrawal from Afghanistan, effectively ending a 20-year war. A lot to talk about. Let's bring in political analyst Ahmad Wais Wardak. Ahmad, your take on what we witnessed today?
Well, it was inevitable. Any of us who were following the developments over the past years, it was inevitable that the U.S. will withdraw and the Taliban will take over, but we didn't actually know that the government will collapse. We all actually hoped that there will be a transition, an orderly transition from Ghani's government to the Taliban's, but the government collapse has actually posed a lot of challenges not only to the United States but also the Taliban. The Taliban are now in a test to actually attract the international support and attract the international recognition and forming an inclusive government that's made of all segments of the society. And it's a challenge to also the Pakistan, which was a supporter of the Taliban, on how it can now manage the crisis in Afghanistan through its leverages on the Taliban.
Ahmed, as you know, the United States has come under a lot of criticism, not necessarily for its plans to withdraw its troops, but over the execution of how it was done. Was there any better way, a cleaner way to get out?
Well, every mission is judged not by its starts, but by its ending, how it ends actually. Like if we look at the American mission in Afghanistan, one wishes that we could have included the Taliban in the Bonn Agreement. We wouldn't have gone through all these fightings and all these challenges throughout these past years. But specifically to your question, how it could be managed, I think once again, it goes back to the sudden collapse of the Ghani's government. No one knew that the former president of Afghanistan will escape the country, and no one actually thought that the republic will collapse and the army will collapse, the security apparatus will collapse. So that actually posed a lot of challenges, not even for the United States, on how to manage the evacuation, which was greatly mismanaged, no doubt about it.
Ahmed, you mentioned some of the challenges ahead, but what do you see as the biggest challenge for Afghanistan? Certainly security challenges, daunting economic challenges, and of course concerns about ISIS-K, which is still launching deadly attacks.
Definitely. One of the problems was that the Taliban, as soon as they took over the big cities, they prematurely released the prisoners, and among them were some of the ISIS fighters. So now they not only release the ISIS fighters, but also now they will be they're fighting them once again. So that was one of the mistakes the Taliban did before taking the control of the state. The second challenge is definitely economic challenges, governance. I mean, taking Afghanistan, anyone who's aware of the history, taking Afghanistan is relatively easier, but managing and governing Afghanistan is a very hard task to be undertaken. So the Taliban are now responsible not only for their own group, which is made of 60,000, 70,000 troops, fighters, but also the entire nation, 30 million plus the population. So economic challenges are another issue. Security challenges are another issue, like the neighboring countries they have to feel secure from Afghanistan. If ISIS-K is operating in Afghanistan and the Taliban are fighting the ISIS-K, so it also affects the developmental projects. So there are a ton of challenges that the Taliban are now facing. And not only to mention forming the government, which one thought that it would be relatively easier. It looks like they are having a hard time even forming a broad-based government that's acceptable for all.
What about women and girls' education? The Taliban have made a lot of lofty promises that girls can go to school under Sharia or Islamic laws, but then the question is, what is their interpretation of those laws? Women and girls, they are watching this very closely and are extremely anxious about their future in that country, especially the ones who did not have the option to leave.
No doubt about it. Not only women and girls are watching, but the entire world is watching. The Taliban have pledged and made promises that women and girls will be allowed to go to school and pursuit of their education and working. To some extent, they've actually fulfilled the promise so far. For example, they've asked on all female healthcare workers to report to their work, but because of the repressive history of the Taliban, specifically towards women, because of undermining the human rights of Afghanistan during the 90s. So there is some mistrust on the Taliban. So time will actually tell, and they have a lot to prove in that regard.
Indeed.
But only calling on women is not enough. It's not sufficient. Now, how would they pay salaries if, for example, the Federal Reserve, the central bank's reserves are frozen and they are actually under economic what do you call sanctions, for example. They cannot open the private banks.
Yeah.
If private banks are not open, yes, so the ordinary people are suffering.